Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive, the FIVIS Deep Dives, where we dive deep to aim high.
Okay, let's jump right in today with a statistic that might make you sit up a bit. There was this recent Microsoft study looked at over 200,000 AI interactions, and it suggested that, get this, up to 84% of what a salesperson typically does today could potentially be done by an AI agent.
84%. Wow, that's a huge number.
It really is, and it definitely signals, a massive shift in what actual value looks like coming from a human seller these days.
Absolutely. It changes the game.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to dig into where current sales approaches often, well, fall short, especially when you're engaging with that critical part of your customer's organization, procurement, which, let's be honest, is often pretty misunderstood.
Very often.
We want to help you move beyond those maybe ingrained traditional sales habits, help you build relationships that aren't just about hitting the number this quarter, but are actually profitable and, crucially, sustainable.
Exactly. And the really valuable thing for this discussion is that we're getting this amazing inside look, right? It's from the buyer's perspective, thanks to Yen, he's a procurement veteran, over 20 years on the other side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And his stated mission, quite explicitly, is to sort of yank sales professionals out of their comfort zones, whether they like it or not.
A bit of tough love, maybe.
You could say that, but it's not just theory. This is a really raw inside view of how buyers actually see sellers and how the whole game is fundamentally changed.
Okay, so let's talk about that comfort zone idea. Because if you're listening, maybe you're chasing quotas, juggling hundreds of customers, feeling that constant pressure. You're probably thinking, comfort zone, my job is anything but comfortable.
Right. And that's fair. Sales is demanding, no doubt about it.
But what we're going to explore today, based on Yen's insights, are maybe those more subtle areas. Places where you might actually be too comfortable in your standard approach in ways that maybe aren't serving you or your customers and ultimately not driving the success you need.
Yeah, it's about those routines we fall into.
Exactly. So Yen argues that despite all that pressure, many sales pros operate within these comfort zones. They kind of keep doing the same things, maybe without even realizing it, and not truly adding that differentiated value. Let's peel back the layers on 3 key areas he flags.
Okay.
So the first comfort zone Yen calls out is something he labels the me show.
Yes, the me show.
You know the one? That classic sales presentation where the focus is just relentlessly on your company, our great products, our quality, our innovation, our global reach, and of course, our desire to be a strategic partner.
We've all sat through that presentation, haven't we? And probably given it to.
Probably.
Yen uses a great example. Imagine you're selling eggs to McDonald's. The typical pitch, he suggests, would be all about your eggs, how fresh they are, the superior quality, the protein content maybe.
How many chickens you have.
Maybe. Or how many other big clients you supply. Your investments in nutrition or sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
All about you and your wonderful eggs.
Right, standard stuff.
But from the procurement perspective, the buyer's reality is completely different. They've probably already met 15 other egg suppliers making almost identical claims.
Okay.
So what they're really thinking is, okay, nice eggs, but why should I buy from you specifically? What does your product actually mean for my success?
It's not about how amazing your eggs are in a vacuum. It's about how your eggs and your partnership help McDonald's achieve their goals.
That makes so much sense. It's shifting the spotlight, isn't it? Away from, look how great we are, to here's how we help you win.
Mm-hmm.
So for McDonald's, it's not just about buying eggs. It's about, what? Selling more breakfast, tapping into new consumer trends.
Precisely. Maybe it's about helping them respond to the demand for more protein. Maybe it's about innovation in their breakfast menu. You need to actively force yourself sometimes to make that shift from what we do to how we help you succeed. It's a fundamental change in focus.
Okay, so that's comfort zone 1, the me show. Definitely something to think about. What's the second area where we might be too comfortable? The second one is, well, equally fundamental, but maybe even more frequently overlooked. It's ignoring how your customer actually buys.
How do you mean? Like imposing our sales process on them?
Exactly that. Too many sales teams just roll out their standard methodology, their sales stages, without really understanding the customer's own internal process. How do they want to be sold to? More importantly, how does their organization actually make purchasing decisions?
Right. They have their own journey.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And it's usually pretty logical. It starts when they identify a problem or an opportunity, maybe a new competitor, a shift in the market, a new regulation, or changing customer needs.
Okay.
Then they start exploring potential solutions. They define their specific business needs, the technical specs. Only then do they decide if they need outside help. And that's when they start looking at suppliers. That's when they might find you.
So we often jump in way too late.
Or we jump in trying to force them through our steps instead of meeting them where they are in their steps. After exploring suppliers, they make a decision, sign a contract, and then move to execution and management.
So the takeaway here is?
So what's huge, you need to understand where your customer is in their buying journey. And then you need to adjust your communication, your approach, to help them move to their next stage, not just drag them through your predefined sales funnel. It really begs the question, do you truly know your customer's internal buying process? Or are you just assuming?
That's a challenging question. It implies needing a much deeper level of customer understanding than just knowing their pain points. Okay, that leads nicely into the third one, which you mentioned might be a bit sensitive.
Yeah, the third comfort zone he identifies as blaming procurement.
Ah, yes. We've all heard it, maybe even said it. You know, I submitted this huge RFX, poured hours into it, and got zero response. Or procurement is just blocking me from talking to the real decision makers. Or the classic, they only care about price.
Exactly. And Jens Henschel, speaking from the procurement side, he really encourages us to pause and reflect. Are these things really procurement's fault? Or are they sometimes, well, excuses? Excuses for what we as sales professionals maybe failed to do earlier, more proactively.
Provocative.
It often stems, he argues, from a misunderstanding of how procurement's role has actually evolved.
That's a really key point, because for so many salespeople, I think the image of procurement is still stuck, you know? The price police, the gatekeepers, the people you only deal with for contracts right at the very end.
Right. But Jens Henschel insists that view is really outdated, like 10, 15 years outdated. He emphasizes that procurement has fundamentally changed. They aren't just a hurdle anymore. They are, or should be seen as, an enabler, a facilitator for the customer's whole buying journey. They're involved at every stage now.
So they're not just the bean counters anymore.
Not at all. Modern procurement professionals see themselves and are often measured as enablers and facilitators. They're involved in the entire customer buying journey we just talked about, not just showing up at the end for the price negotiation and the contract.
Okay, that's a significant shift in perspective.
It is. And it means that engaging only when you get that RFQ, that tender document, that's operating from a huge comfort zone. You're showing up late to the party, and you're at a serious disadvantage because key decisions have already been shaped.
Right. So if the old ways aren't working and procurement has evolved, how do we actually win now? What's the strategy? Feels like we need a new map.
We do. You need to understand procurement's own internal process. Yen calls it their blueprint. It runs alongside that customer buying journey, and he breaks it down into about 6 key steps. Understanding this is critical.
Okay, let's walk through it with step 1.
Step 1 is demand alignment. This is super important. Buyers work with internal stakeholders, could be the CEO, finance, R&D, operations. They work together to define the actual business needs. And critically, at this stage, they are actively looking for supplier insights to bring into the company's strategy.
Supplier insights. So our input is actually welcome that early.
If you have a relationship, absolutely. This is a massive leverage point if you've already built trust and credibility. It's where you can start shaping the requirements.
Okay. What's next after demand alignment?
Step 2 is internal and external analysis. Here they decide, do we build this capability ourselves or do we buy it? They analyze the market supply, capacity, pricing trends. Who are the potential players? What are the risks?
Makes sense. Then what?
Step 3, sourcing strategy. This is absolutely crucial. They decide things like, what are our goals here? How many suppliers do we want? What negotiation tactics will we use? Will we partner deeply with one or two? Or spread the business? Will we maybe even make an upfront investment with a key supplier?
And Yen stresses this stage is critical because
he estimates around 80% of the key sourcing decisions are effectively made right here, long before you, the salesperson, typically see an RFQ.
Wow, 80%. That basically means if you only show up for the RFQ,
you're playing in the last 20%. You've missed the main opportunity to influence the outcome, to shape the requirements in your favor, to differentiate beyond price.
Okay, so after sourcing strategy, then comes the part we usually think of.
Yes. Step 4 is supplier selection. This is the traditional tender process. RFQs, proposals, negotiations. The price-focused stage where most sales teams first properly engage.
Right, where we've been comfortable playing.
Exactly. Then step 5 is contracting, working with legal, hammering out terms, balancing risks and benefits. And finally, step 6 is supply management. The buyer doesn't just sign the contract and walk away. They're accountable for ensuring it gets executed: quality, delivery, logistics, ongoing performance.
That's a much more comprehensive view of procurement's role than just getting the best price.
Totally. And it leads to perhaps the biggest takeaway from Yen's perspective. Savings is just one metric for procurement. He says they often have 15 or more KPIs they're measured against. And he's very clear. No buyer out there any longer will get a promotion because you have given them a 3% discount.
So those days are over. The 3% hero discount doesn't cut it anymore.
Pretty much. It might be necessary, but it's rarely sufficient. It doesn't make them a star internally.
So if it's not just about price, what are these other KPIs? Where can we actually help procurement shine?
Well, a huge one, often the primary one, connects back to that demand alignment stage. It's about sales and gross contribution.
Helping the company grow.
Yes. Procurement wants to demonstrate to their CEO, to the business units, how the supply chain is actively contributing to top-line growth and profitability. Not just cutting costs on the bottom line. How are they enabling the business to sell more, to be more successful in the market?
Okay, so how can a supplier help with that? Let's go back to the McDonald's eggs.
Perfect example. Imagine you're that egg supplier. Instead of waiting for an RFQ, you proactively send an email, way before any negotiation. And the email isn't about your eggs. It's about, say, changing consumer trends. We're seeing increased demand for protein due to new weight loss drugs influencing diet.
Offering market insight.
Exactly. And then you suggest, maybe we could explore how making your breakfast offerings more protein-focused, perhaps featuring eggs more prominently, could boost your breakfast sales. That is true value from procurement's perspective. You're addressing their business challenge, growing sales. You're helping them look smart and proactive to their stakeholders. It's not about your eggs anymore. It's about their market share.
I really like that example. It completely flips the script on what adding value means. It's not features, it's business outcomes for the customer. And thinking about that email approach, that also touches on a question we often get, like one from Richard, asking how a new supplier can even get noticed, especially via email. Seems like this is the way.
It really is.
Yeah.
For that new supplier trying to break through, your email headline, your opening, it absolutely cannot be about your product's features or your company history. Forget that. It needs to be laser focused on them. Something like, idea to help you capture the growing protein trend, or insight on competitor X's recent move and a possible response.
Good bold.
Offer specific, valuable information that helps them solve a problem or seize an opportunity they care about. That makes you instantly different from the dozens of emails just talking about themselves. You're giving first.
Give value to get attention. Makes sense. Okay, so helping with sales and gross contribution is one key KPI. What's another non-price KPI for procurement?
Another critical one, especially during that analysis phase, is forecasting.
Forecasting, like predicting future prices.
Exactly. Buyers are often the designated authority within their company on future market pricing for key ingredients, materials, or services. This is vital for budgeting, for financial planning. And their performance, their credibility, is often directly tied to how accurate those forecasts turn out to be.
Okay, I can see how that's important internally. How do suppliers play into that?
Hugely. Let's stick with McDonald's. Their finance team needs to budget for next year. They ask the egg buyer, what are egg prices likely to do over the next 18 months? Especially in markets where there isn't a clear public index, that buyer relies heavily on insights from their trusted suppliers to build that forecast. They need reliable intelligence.
So as a supplier, I can provide that intelligence. Isn't that like showing my hand before negotiations?
It's not about giving away your final price. It's about positioning yourself as a strategic partner, an intelligence source. You can share research on market dynamics, explain why prices might trend up or down. Maybe it's feed costs, avian flu outbreaks, shifts in global demand. You provide context. This helps the buyer build a credible forecast, justify it to their CFO, and makes them look good. You become their trusted advisor on the market.
So you're building relationship capital, essentially, helping them succeed in their role beyond just the transaction.
Precisely. You're demonstrating you understand their world, their pressures, their KPIs. That builds trust and preference long before you talk specific prices for the next contract.
This proactive, collaborative approach seems key, then. And it probably helps address another common issue, like the one Rizwan raised. What happens when procurement seems disconnected from operations during an RFP? You know, the decision gets made purely on price, maybe driven by procurement, but then the internal users operations, R&D, feel like the chosen supplier doesn't actually meet their needs or makes their job harder.
Yeah, that's a classic disconnect. And the solution really lies in that early and broad engagement we've been talking about. You can't just engage with procurement in isolation or just with the end users. You need to understand both the customer's buying journey, what the users truly need, their operational requirements, and procurement's internal process and KPIs.
So connect the dots internally for them.
In a way, yes. By engaging early with both sets of stakeholders, you can help ensure the user's critical needs are understood, quantified, and built into the requirements before the sourcing strategy is finalized. You also need to show procurement how meeting those user needs links to their broader goals, maybe risk reduction, supply chain resilience, or even enabling that top-line growth we mentioned. If you coordinate and communicate effectively with both sides early on, you can help prevent those purely price-driven decisions that end up causing internal friction and problems down the line. It requires navigating the internal landscape.
It sounds like moving beyond the comfort zone means becoming much more of a strategic orchestrator within the customer's organization, not just a product pusher.
That's a great way to put it. Orchestrator.
Okay, this has been incredibly illuminating. Let's try and synthesize this. If we boil it down, what's the core message for salespeople listening right now?
Get out of your comfort zone. Provide genuine value up front, engage early, and understand their world, their journey.
So, as you, our listeners, reflect on this deep dive, what's the main thing sticking with you?
Maybe we can leave you with a question to ponder. Based on everything we've discussed, what's one assumption you currently hold about how procurement operates, or maybe about what they truly value, that you're now willing to challenge this week?
That's a powerful thought to carry forward. A great place to wrap up. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel more informed, maybe a little challenged, and definitely ready to engage with procurement in a new way, a way that truly wins.